Yeah, let's do this.
All right.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ernie Humphrey. I will be the moderator for our webinar today, AI in Treasury, Great Power and Great Responsibility. Incredibly excited for my conversation today with my co-speaker, Steffi Iskovich. He is the CTO of Panex. I'm honored to have Panex as a thought leadership partner. They care about the professional success of those who leverage their solutions, just as I care about the professional success of those who consume my content. Before we jump in, I'm going to go ahead and ask Savi to come in and give us a little bit about his background and what you guys do at Panex.
Hi, Ernie. So first of all, thank you. Great to be here. So I'm Sefi, the CTO of Panax. I'm coming from a background of almost 20 years in tech, mainly in fields of data, big data, AI. This is what I've been doing for the past 10 years, mostly.
All right. Uh, Thank you very much. So before we jump in, we have a few housekeeping items today. We are going to be recording the webinar today, so you will be receiving a recording of the webinar today. So check your inbox. So we have a lot of content to go over. So the good news is you'll have the opportunity to review the recording after the webinar. Feel free to ask questions throughout the webinar, and we will do our best to answer all your questions via chat. If we don't get to your questions, we will get back to you directly after the webinar. Finally, excited to be holding a raffle for our webinar today, and we will announce the winner of our special raffle on the Panex LinkedIn page. And you need to let's go ahead and follow Panex on LinkedIn to check if you won the webinar raffle today. Now, before we jump in, we want to give a little bit about our agenda for today. So really, we're gonna have a conversation. So we're gonna start off on uncertainty in the markets and AI and why AI is more important than ever. We'll frame that around the importance of cash management and managing your counterparty risk as well. We'll talk about some opportunities for AI in finance and treasury. We'll talk about AI adoption risks and mitigation of risk is very important that we understand how we are deploying AI, all of the associated risks. And a big part of that is partnering with our CTOs, such as Sevi, because it's really important that we have a company strategy and we understand those risks. And then we'll wrap things up with some actionable takeaways, which is very important. So first of all, why is cash management more important than ever? Let's go there. The world is just quite frankly in financial turmoil. There's a lot of going on. We have a lot of uncertainty in our global markets. Some of that is fueled by some of the trade policy, some of the trade rhetoric. We've got a lot of geopolitical uncertainty. So it's more important than ever that we understand our cash movements. So not only we need to be able to see our cash movements, right? But we need to understand the how and why of our cash movements and work with our customers and suppliers and understand and build those relationships. So if we don't have that visibility, we need that visibility. We need to understand the why. Anything you'd like to add here, Sevi?
So I think we see it a lot of interest in regarding this situation, the volatility in the markets in the past few months, especially, and we see it like from prospect and of course from our customers, and I think this is very top of mind. If we touch the next slide, so basically, I think in the environment of when you talk about VUCA, when you have a lot of volatility and uncertainty in the markets, you have to be on top of stuff, and you see it in terms of both in more complex issues like scenarios when you want to forecast different type of scenario depending on the situation, but you can even see it in a much more simpler day-to-day issues, like basically, as you said, Ernie, getting visibility on your data, understanding transaction, understanding the purpose and the cause that every transaction or every transaction in the bank and movement, just getting context. And I think this is part of the value that Panex trying to bring, Panex is bringing to our customer. And when you talk about like the ability to move fast and the ability to make smarter decisions, this is part of the thing that finance as a system can allow you.
Yeah, thanks. I agree with that wholeheartedly. And one of the things I want to point out, I love this term, FUCA. I mean, it's really amazing. And I think that just speaks to the environment that we're in, uncertainty and ambiguity. So I want to share a little story. My wife works in procurement, so they were trying to get a piece of equipment imported from France to the US. So they started this conversation about a month or so ago. So originally we were talking some rhetoric about tariffs on aluminum, so they were going to charge a tariff on the piece of equipment. Well, instead of charging the tariff on what percentage of the piece of equipment is aluminum, they were going to charge the tariff on the whole thing. So just imagine you have tight margins in manufacturing, and here comes 30% on a piece of equipment or anything that you're trying to import as well. Or on the other side, you're exporting your goods. So it's incredibly important that you have visibility and like the scenarios. We're looking at scenarios people never even thought of now. So to not be able to do scenario analysis can be more costly than ever. So it's just the business agility is incredibly important, and you need to have the technology and the capability to do that. And also on the rolling forecast side, you need to understand your drivers, and those drivers may be changing right as we speak. So that's really important as well. So let's go ahead. I want to do a little bit, just level set on AI. So can you please give us a real high level overview here? We've all heard of AI, but also I want you to touch on a little bit between what people do, I call AI, and then we'll get into a little bit machine learning, but then generative AI. Can you do that for us before we hop in?
Yeah, of course. So I think it's a very good question. I even thought a lot myself how to explain it, because different people have different meaning or different explanation of what is AI. But if I need to put it in simple terms, then I think it's the ability of system to autonomously make decision, to get deeper insights, and not just regular what you regularly see in the past. Like 5 years ago, you were able to see some kind of algorithms or some kind of more complex ML, but you've never seen like an autonomous decision making. And I think this is when we enter the era of AI, is the ability of the system just to make smart decision on their own.
Okay, now can you give us a little bit of a rundown? Again, let's talk about ML and Gen AI. Let me give my little context first, and then I'll let you give us maybe a little bit more of a technical information. So to me, when I think about machine learning, on that side of it, I think about efficiency. I think about it allowing us to do things in a more efficient manner, really removing those manual tasks, free up our time to do more strategic activities. So that's a big piece of it. And then on the generative AI side, it's more about understanding the why, helping us make better decisions, or in a sense, think of a different way and understand what happened. Can you add a little bit more technical behind the Gen AI side for us?
Yeah, sure. So I think if I'm thinking about it, so ML is a more like task specific. When we talked about ML for the past, again, 5-10 years ago, you used to talk about you had a specific task you want to optimize. For example, I want to know how to optimize my resource allocation. So you had to solve a very specific and narrow problem. You had to train it. You had to have a lot of data, train it, and then usually it involves more like a mathematical or analytics task. Whereas when you go to Gen AI, you usually talk about a broader scope. Usually you talk more about, as you said, getting insight. It's a more natural language. You usually most of the models, you don't have to train them. You just get like out of the box, zero shot, which means you just ask a question and get an answer with a more, we would call it a general purpose model. When you don't have to train it for a specific task or specific use case, you just are able to answer a lot of different use cases. And I think this is like the potential of the Gen AI in terms of new possibilities, where you don't have to solve one problem at a time. You can just solve a lot of problems with this commodity or with this new technology.
Right. Let me ask you a question on the data side. On the machine learning side, is it learning from the customer specific data? And then is a Gen AI learning from kind of the universe of data where you point it to? Is that a good way to think about it, or am I missing a little bit?
I think it's a very good way of thinking about it, especially now. We will touch it a little bit later when we talk about
Yeah.
privacy and regulation.
Right.
Usually, you don't train cross companies or cross data sources
Right.
in the past few
Okay.
years, but Gen AI is like it's 10,000, even 1 million times the data you will have to train on a specific ML model. So basically, it has like tons of data in terms
Right.
of traditional ML.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for that. So let's go ahead. S- so I'm your name. I'm getting it bad.
I'm
Uh,
Sefi.
Sefi. Okay. So Sefi, why don't you give us through a couple of like examples? So let's talk about smarter financial operations to start out with.
So usually when we did ML, when we do ML actually, usually, as I said, you solve like a very specific task. Usually you want to, for example, you want to analyze the inflow and the outflows and find anomalies. Anomaly detection is a classic algorithm or ML task where you want to understand is something suspicious or something is wrong with the inflow. Then usually it is able to find specific patterns, very specific patterns, and can touch everything.
Are these, would you say that categorization of cash flows, is that a ML? Is that, would you call that machine learning, how to do that? Because I know that's a big struggle that people have.
So it's a good question. I think like many problems, you can solve it in many tools. I think the traditional way and another tool in the box is using an ML or classifiers, if you want to know like the
Yeah.
more professional term to solve this to get categorization or labeling. I think moving forward, we will get much better results
Okay.
using Gen AI for that as well.
Okay. Yeah, because I think when I think about it, and when I think about AI and AP and AR, I think of how maybe when someone comes in and has to make an adjustment to a supplier or something, and then the software itself learns, so they don't have to keep on making that adjustment. And as maybe we have to go in and manually categorize or recategorize things, then that machine learning will hopefully take that on for us, and we'll save just tons and tons of time on the cash forecasting front trying to categorize that data.
Definitely. So moving forward, if we touch a little bit about Gen AI, an example is we touched a little bit before is when you talk about the more complex issues, for example, like multi scenarios for forecasting is where you want to predict in different several like real world scenarios. When you, for example, the tariff is a great example. What happens if tomorrow we will double the tariff for a specific country, for all countries? What will it do to your suppliers? What will it do to you as a manufacturing company and so on? So these type of things, specifically in the past few months, we've seen it quite a few where you have to adjust to different like very really edge cases that you wouldn't even think about. So now you have to adapt and adjust very quickly and really reshuffle all your finances. So I think this is a very good example of Gen AI.
Yeah, I think just to dovetail on that a little bit, I think for me, the part that's really incredibly powerful is on the risk insights, because a lot of times people are still trying to understand the risks, right, that they might be facing. So the Gen AI be able to think, okay, well, there's a lot of interrelationships, right, between different markets, and it might say this tariff on this market, just it might impact your company in more than one ways, in more than one currency, in more than one counterparty risk exposure. So I think that's incredible. And I also like to say that uh, data and insight isn't useful unless it impacts decisions. So the generative AI helps us impact. So I think it brings that. I like the word intelligence in there. It's overused, but I like to put that word in there. Finally, we can start to say that about it. So let's talk about some opportunities for AI. and treasury. So I'll let you go ahead and give us a little, give us some insights there.
Yeah, perfect. So I think the first and foremost major advantage of FAI is the agility, the ability to react very, very fast to changing in the environment and changing on the different type of scenarioing as we mentioned before. And I think we see a lot of different issues where we have liquidity gaps, or we have like the ability to invest, for example, invest some of your reserves. If you miss it, then again, sometimes it's not a loss, but if you are missing out on 5% or 4% interest on millions and millions, it's really revenues going to waste. And I think the ability to really react fast, this is part of the and actually even realizing and getting this insight in real time. I think this is part of the use cases we see a lot for AI.
Yeah, so when I was in treasury, a lot of times we had target balances, right, in case something happened. And I think some of the things that are going on right now is people are having to possibly adjust those balances. But also, if you have that visibility, you may be able to take advantage of opportunity. So volatility brings opportunity. So you may be able to grow your market share. So having that cash management agility can actually give your company a competitive advantage, right, in those markets. And if we're able to be flexible, right, with our suppliers and our customers, that's going to speak well for having those long-term relationships.
Perfect. And I think this really brings us to the next point where I think the fact that we can move a lot of the heavy lifting of the day-to-day operation and focus on what really matters and the strategic decisions and the ability to basically get deeper insight and deeper visibility into your data, the ability to get real-time alerts and insight on your data, so you don't have to manually day after day really putting your analyst into work. Again, this will give you the ability to move faster, get smarter and better decisions as we go. And I think this is a really game changer for most of the lean finance team that really is out there today.
Yeah, I really like just a few things. I like the idea of proactive alerts, so we're not being reactive, and sometimes being reactive just really doesn't work. And then, as we mentioned before, just having insight into real recommendations in real time. So you're going to be asked questions you never thought your CFO is going to be calling you, which is a good thing if you're ready, right? You're a treasury professional, the CFO say, "What are we doing? What are we doing?" And we'll get into this a little bit later, but it's really important that we're dialed in on both sides, but especially on the procurement and AP front. I think people are finding that that's incredibly powerful to have better relationships, especially if you work in the manufacturing arena, as I used to do many years ago. So let me go ahead and touch on a few things from my perspective as a longtime treasury professional and someone that has conversations with, I would say, a little bit nervous treasury professionals lately over the last 3 to 6 months. But for me, a part of this is us being able. The right technology helps us understand our risk exposures. We need visibility into those risk exposures, and those risk exposures are changing. So our company has a tolerance for risk. We have a tolerance, so maybe our currency risk, right? We want to hedge up to a certain amount. We're managing risk based on our transactions, right? Which can change. Like I mentioned, my wife, holy cow, oops, our costs went up. So we could be short or long in a currency. We could have commodity risks, right, that we might not able to take advantage of. We have counterparty risk, right, because our suppliers, we want to be able to count on them, but also our customers, right? They could be experiencing things. So I just completed a survey I'll be sharing in the next like 3 weeks. I can tell you what's already happening is it not surprising. Company DSO is going up, DPO is going up, supplier costs are going up. People are changing their hedging strategies. And so you need to be thinking in those ways. And if you don't have this ability and agility, you need to be having conversations with your CFO to make sure that you have this. Would you like to add anything here on the risk exposure side?
Yeah, so I will just say in very quick that again the fact that you can analyze risk can basically make you do more stuff, and I think this is something that usually can't be done manually. And when we see our customers, they usually uh, are really concerned. And I think part of the ability to get this off their head, again, this is one of the biggest values that Panax or a system like Panax can bring.
Yeah, another thing here which I should touch on is the world of compliance dynamics is also going kind of a little bit haywire because you don't know what is coming. There's a lot of changes, and unfortunately there's fraud in the compliance arena. So companies are masking things and shell companies, and so that's also something that we need to consider. So I want to dovetail on your last comment. You touched on it a little bit. What different questions are your prospects and customers asking you, over the last, 3 to 6 months? Are there some different questions or stuff that really dialed in on that you're having conversations about?
So I think most are concerned about the ability to get really deeper insight. I think they're
Okay.
really interested in FX exposure, really interested about getting visibility into their AR NAPs, of course.
Yeah.
As again, things get hectic and they really need to stay on top of things. So every collection matter. Uh,
Right.
so this is the thing we see most.
All right. Yeah. Thank you. So this is an interesting point, which I don't think gets talked about enough. So I've been speaking about treasury and technology and aligning, and we talk about the business case for investing in technology. A big piece of the business case that treasury professionals we haven't really talked about is it actually helps our relationship with IT become more strategic. So we don't need to pull in IT for managing all these feeds from lock boxes and every other banking portal. And instead, we are collaborating. So I've seen a shift in IT folks to being more of a business analytics business partner. So I think it's an opportunity for us. And also, as I mentioned earlier, we'll talk about this in a bit, how important it is to be aligned with IT on technology, but also cybersecurity and risk. So what are your thoughts here?
Definitely, I think IT is it's one of the most overwhelmed department in every company
Right.
I've been with, and usually to get like the attention of IT is something that it's really hard, and I think if you can if you can just pass some of this burden somewhere else to a company that or to a system that is really that's what's all about. I think again, this is something that UIT will definitely be supportive of, and we see it quite a bit.
Yeah, so that's another note to my treasury professionals. Don't forget about that IT costs and savings when you're doing the business case. So this is near and dear to my heart. Talk about this all the time. We need to leverage technology to improve customer and supplier relationships. The visibility into not only what's going on, but why it's happening is incredibly important. Our goal in treasury should be to control or at least influence cash movements. And then we need to invest in relationships with our customer. Each customer matters, especially during these times when things are a little bit hectic. This is when relationships are built. Realign on your expectations. This allows you to do that in your supplier relationships as well. If you have a good relationship with your supplier, when you call them to touch base now, they're going to tell you the truth. If you don't have that good relationship, you don't know what's going to happen. You might not get your products in, so it can have incredible disruption in your business. So visibility breeds better relationships, managing in silos, not having visibility, not giving visibility to your teams can be incredibly harmful. So I think this is another area of obviously a big value on the technology side, especially on the AP side. If you look at how having that better information controls the timing of payments, what's the cost, right? Value cost of having your cash, better managing your risk exposures, and then just that working capital management in general, in addition to all the efficiencies on the machine learning side as well. So that should be a big part of that value proposition. And I forgot to mention payment types, right? checks, going from checks to ACH is an incredible value add, and it lets you see the possibilities to do that. What are the opportunities we have in that visibility? So let's talk about the risk side and how we mitigate those risks. So I'll let you go ahead and take the lead here.
Yeah, perfect. So I won't touch all the points, but I think the main issue we need to remember is when you talk about new technology, you always have like the risks. It doesn't mean you don't need to engage or really adopt the technology. You just need to do it wisely. And I think the main risk we're talking about is basically like the models themselves. A lot of people talk about the agentic AI hallucinations, the fact that you think you're getting right answers, but you are not, and the ability to really understand what's true and what's not, it's part of the risk when adopting this technology. I think the other part of risk is all about the data leakage, the data protection. Again, this is part of, I think this is the most sensitive data I ever dealt with, and I see it from our customers. They're really concerned about who's seeing the data, who's handling the data, and the possibility of data leakage is very possible when adopting this technology if you don't do it right. And last but not least is again all the privacy, regulation, compliance. Even if you have all the knowledge, you have to tick a lot of boxes. It's a lot of it's a lot of rigid work. You have to be compliant with SOC 1, SOC 2, ISOs, whatnot. And I think again you want to owe it to yourself. You want to understand you're doing the best. And this also comes with a cost, and it's part of the profession you have to adopt as a company. So again, I think these are the main risks when talking about adopting this technology.
Yeah. Can you give us a little, I've heard of it before, but some of the people listening might not be familiar with what exactly MCP is, what it stands for, and what that risk is. I know it's getting more attention now.
Definitely. So I think MCP again it's part of the new technology, the new stack, where it basically gives you the ability to connect external sources, to put it in simple terms, to external sources to the LLM. So like to the model, right, to the Gen AI. So the great opportunity is your model, which is smart, can have a lot of data now. The risk here, it has a lot of data. You have to understand what is he getting. Is he getting it with the right permission? Are you giving something that you don't want? I think again, like with every new opportunity, you have risk, and I think this is part of the things we need to learn to adapt and really like live with and control them.
Good. But all of these things are important. Is there one area that you think companies should be a little bit more focused on and ask providers like Panex, right? These questions, are there any of these 5 areas that you think people might want to focus a little bit more on?
For me, I think the data leakage is the most important one. This is your oil, this is your gold. You have to protect it. Very sensitive data, and I think we need to do it with caution. The other one of like the second, if I had to name the top 2, I think that it's the AI hallucinations. Again, because we talked about being proactive and taking actions, following like insights. But if the insights are wrong and the recommendations are wrong, then you just missed the whole point, right? So I think these are the top 2 for me. Perfect. So we talked a little bit about like the risk, and now we want to talk a little bit about like what we do to handle them, because again, we want to adopt the technology. It has a lot of upsides, and when talking about, for example, let's touch the main one. If we talked about AI hallucinations, it's not enough just to ask the question. You have to like cross-reference, had like fact-checking layers, putting guardrails on the prompt, like don't allow them to ask everything and anything, giving them the right context on every question. This is part of the things that you do as a responsible platform. If we touch the second thing we talked about, which is the data leakage, then again, like I see a lot of posts when people like just take the data and post it in OpenAI, right, or in Claude, and this is problematic. These are like closed garden. models, but they do train on your data. So you can't just copy paste and be sure that they're not using your data. And we have a lot of like funny stories when sometimes people are using the same the same user to ask the same question, and then the model remembers, and then you can basically leak data from one user to another, even though one of them is in different departments and so on. So you really have to be very, very careful when talking about data leakage.
Yeah, and let me ask you a question here. This one kind of gets to me, and maybe it's too early to ask this question. Are customers asking you questions and kind of pulling you into when they have audits, when they have their auditors there, internal and external? Are you having more of those conversations? Are they up to speed, or are you giving them advice on how to explain things to their auditors? That's from my experience. I'd be horrified to have auditors come over and try and explain all these things to them.
So that's a very, very good question. I think again, the ability to get full visibility on your data and get full visibility on every single account, every single GL, everything in your system really allows you as a finance leader to give the answer. So Panax gives you a lot of different tools, different types of ways of really showing and acquiring your data. And I think, of course, this is part of the value we tend to bring to our customers. Cool. So, sorry. When talking about robust data data infrastructure for AI, usually people really just go to the final stage. We're talking about like LLMs and Gen AI, but I think you need to understand like your model or your insight will be as good as your data. And what you need to understand is like you don't build it in a day. You have to be like really data-centric company before you can be like an AI-centric company. It starts with how you collect your data. It follows by how you make sure the data is from the right quality. Is it modeled right? It's really important for the model to get context. And again, the context is really derived from how you presented the data, right? So these are all things that you need to be doing from day one. Only when you have this like strong and robust platform, you can go up to the next level when you just want to like feed your LLM or feed your model with your data. And I think like the holy grail is getting like finance leaders insights, which means like you take the very, very essence of your business and trying to understand what matters to you, not like matters to anyone. And I think this is what we're aiming at when adapting this technology.
Yeah, let me ask you a question on the data quality front. Does the automation in ML help with that data quality? Somewhat the validation is because I know that's a big piece of the value is it's always like you said. I'm sorry, I'm old. Did garbage in, garbage out, right? So that data quality, is that a piece where the technology helps?
Definitely, I think the ability to understand like is the data sometimes provider can send you wrong data. You have to really identify it in real time, and you need to fix it. Sometimes you have missing data. All these type of issues is part of the thing that you have to keep in line all the time. If you don't do that, again, your model, your insight will be as good as your data. So missing values, corrupted values, just not even getting values, like it's a thing that, of course, we are using like ML and AI to resolve.
Is it important to have, I would say, robust data quality types? So you're probably looking at structured and unstructured data. Is it important that the technology helps with those as well? Because we're getting data from so many different places and so many different types of data. Just curious on that front.
Yeah, of course. So again, great question. So I think most of the data that we're dealing with as finance people, most of it is structure. We're not dealing with pictures or audio or something like that. Right. Most of the data is structured, for better and for worse. It has like upside and downside. You have some unstructured data examples, but most of it is structured, and that's why, again, how you structure it really matters.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. All right. So we've had a far-ranging conversation. So let's go ahead and go ahead and wrap things up with some final comments. So I'll go ahead and give my insights as a professional treasury practitioner, and then I will pass the floor over to you, and then you can give your final comments as well. I don't want to steal the thunder because I know Panics talks about the FUCA world. I love that acronym. So from my perspective, treasury is more important than ever. And I like to say that the world of cash flow forecasting, the business agility piece is incredibly important, and being able to model those scenarios, have visibility, understand, mitigate, and manage those risks, and build those relationships with suppliers and customers. And that's more important than ever. But, and also just to be mindful of the side that we need to be engaged with our IT leaders. We need to have a company strategy for AI adoption and make sure that we are adhering to it, but also know the right questions to ask of our providers, such as Panex, of those who are going to be helping us enter this world.
Definitely. I think from my point of view, if I need to wrap up the discussion, I think again, AI brings a lot of opportunities. I think one of the I think best best thing in AI is it moves fast all the time, and if you want to gain like the most of it, you have to be on top of it. But it comes with a price, and if it's not your top of mind every day, it's either you're lagging, which again you can live with, or if you want to be like in the cutting edge and really get everything you can from AI, I think you should have some kind of partner to help you with. And I think this is the places that Panax really shines and really helps our customers and our partners gain the most of their data and really for like putting to the most like their cash flow and treasury needs.
Yeah. So I want to thank you. Thank you very much, Asefi, for your amazing insights and taking the time with us today. So it's incredibly intriguing to me to be able to talk to a chief technology officer. So I sincerely appreciate that. Want to remind everyone about the raffle for those who attended the webinar. So please go ahead and follow the PayNext company page. I want to encourage everyone to visit the PayNext website. They have a lot of amazing leadership on their website as well. And everyone, I want to thank you very much for your valuable time, and make the rest of your day great, everyone.
Thank you very much, Ernie.